Good morning, everybody. John Spiokla here with Luda, bringing you the Gen AI news briefing, rating top news, either essential, important, or optional to give you time back in your day. And we're also have Paul Beyer here. Good morning, Paul.
Good
All
morning.
right. We have a lot of interesting news today, everything from new kind of meta models on explainability all the way through the creation of a partnership between DocuSign and Elastic. We have Cohere and Fujitsu. So lots to get to today. A lot of interesting content. All right. So let me get to our very first article, which is on DocuSign and Elastic. So this is an article by VentureBeat that is part of the content that they had from the conference that Paul and I were at recently. An interesting new partnership between Elastic, which for those of you who don't know, is used by a ton of folks in terms of one of the most popular vector databases, certainly in Silicon Valley and so forth. And then DocuSign, of course, the dominant contract management and signing documentation software. So with those two together. Yeah, so I don't know, Luda, what do you think of these two coming together like this?
Yeah, I was between optional and important and decided that maybe it's worth flagging to our audience these two very important applications for search and contract management. So I put an important on it. So it first discusses the DocuSign or the search application, and then it goes through DocuSign as use cases and how they are advanced, essentially. So in Elastic, we haven't seen that much news about them, but they're a very powerful vector database.
Yes.
Deal with unstructured data, have a lot of installed customer base. So they are discussing how they are advancing the search capability, and DocuSign is adding the contract management features to the allowing folks to completely put the various details of the PDFs into the database, and then ability to query and suggest ways to manage the contracts. So this is very powerful, and we flagged the contract management as one of the big applications going forward. So yeah. Important.
Yeah, I was actually going to make the argument for essential. I mean, they've got this wonderful thing in here, the intelligent agreement management system that's got, Maestro, Navigator, and App Center in terms of analyzing contracts. I mean, every organization has contracts. They're in the main dead PDF files that just sit out there, have no inference on top. They have costly lawyers. They don't know what they're committed to. All large companies. Paul and I know of one of our clients that just analyzing their IT contracts. They have a $500 million IT spend. Just analyzing their IT contracts found them 10% cost savings of $50 million. So I was going to make the case for essential. And the other thing is it's an example of taking dead data and making it alive with intelligence. I don't know, Paul, where are you on this?
John, you know where I'm on the legal stuff right now. I am there's just incredible untapped opportunity here. You and I was telling you that story just yesterday, another 40-page contract I was working on, and Claude was invaluable in honing that in minutes. And I continue to not see a lot of discussions on this. And when I share these use cases with executives and teams, most of them have no idea it's out there. So for the ROI and for your enthusiasm, I'll vote essential.
All right, we're going to go essential on this bad boy. And the other thing is that these are two, I mean, this is going to launch at scale, right? Because you've got two, Elastic's not dominant, but they're big, and DocuSign is dominant. So, all right.
With all due respect to the founders of this organization and all the enthusiasms that you guys have, I think essential is way too high. Yeah, contracts is a big thing, but yeah, it's a back of the front lines, really. It's important. I ran the purchasing, so worked on a lot of contracts. So I think it is important, but I don't think we should rate it as essential.
So you tap us down to important.
Sorry. I'm going to be democratic today. It's essential.
He just loves it.
Not
I need,
democratic. All right.
I need to get a big piece of chalk.
Okay. All right. So let's see. In terms of our next article, it's Hugging Face.
We did have a comment from one of our readers. Very important for litigation matters.
Oh, yes.
Available,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
true.
law is going to be completely redone. Well, back to our WINS framework, right? It's laws in the crucible. All right. Hugging Face is releasing SMOLM. I kind of like the name. A series of small language models, and that they beat the other small language models. So very interesting trend here in terms of small versus large, and they make the argument, you know, that of the sorry, let's put this back up. Let me go ahead and present here. Share the screen of this guy. That, you know, this trend of small versus large language models, bunch of small models working together. Right now, we still see the large language models outdoing the small models and the focus models still, but what that'll happen over time. Paul, what do you think here of this announcement?
Yeah, you know, I think it's you know, certainly it's an ongoing discussion on what the next 2 years looks like for big frontier models versus small models and teams of models. But for our leader right now, this is optional. This is just more important development on the open source side, but optional.
Okay, what do you think there, Luda? Optional?
It is a trend. Hugging Face, there's a little line in there at the bottom that Hugging Face turned profitable. So they're doing something right, and their models are performing. So I don't know. I'm thinking important, guys. And it's on device, and this is where a lot of new models will show up, a combination between on device and cloud. So
But my understanding, Luda, they're just leaderboards. They don't actually do their own model. Am I misunderstanding that? Maybe I am.
It's their own model. That's how I read it.
Well, and the thing, Kara, this is Hugging Face recently unveiled a new open large model leaderboard.
Oh, leaderboard. Maybe you're right, but I thought this is their own model. Okay, if it's a leaderboard, then yeah, I would agree with optional.
I may be wrong as well. I mean, the headline, Hugging Face has unveiled a new set of compact models available in 3 sizes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Luda, I think you were right, and I'm, again, absolutely wrong.
Yeah. Their own models, and then there's a table down there that compares the models to others. Theirs slightly outperforming. So now what is happening is, if I read it correctly, there are all these models that can be on device, right, in a connection to cloud. And so I think it's a confirmation that this is going to stay. And Hugging Face is confirming it through their, you know, being profitable. So
wow, I'm surprised, Luda. Contracts, you can go get money today. This you might use in the future. Usually that's the inversion of the normal Luda thing, you know? I tell you, man, I'm confused.
Well, I'm okay with optional. It's a good trend, though, to highlight.
All right, we're going optional.
John, this is a good example of our co-intelligence AI robots. I just asked our AI colleague Perplexity if Hugging Face has proprietary models, and they said no, they're just leading boards. So I'm going to actually ask. Now I'm going to ask, as you guys do, the next one is chathub.gg, which allows you to survey 6 robots at one time and get an answer back and see how that differs. But
all right, we're going to do that. All right, we're
going optional, right? We're going optional.
Optional.
Yep. So the next one is we have Pinterest building Canvas, not to be mistaken with Canva, right? And a fascinating article about the nature of their improvement of text to image training and results. Let me go ahead and share screen here. And in here, we've got so this is a very interesting article that goes through, and I'm going to come down on optional because I don't think this is yet available. I'm trying to figure that out. But you know, how they are doing a combination of training with, you know, traditional encoding and then putting clips in to articulate what the person really wants in the background, and then you can also do images as part of the encoder to get to the actual end image. So I think it's a combination of text and image input. The results in looking at it seem fantastic. The resolution, especially of background and so forth. And it's a lovely discussion of the complexities and kind of where they're headed. This notion of they want to upgrade the diffusion architecture, rethinking how they do the masking, and then, they think about visual embeddings. So I was going to put this as optional. If it were available, I might have put it as important. But what do you folks think?
I think it's optional, but the results are tremendous. It's also an interesting trend that people will take the LLMs and then fine tune them. So in this case, what they're trying to do is highlight the product on the background and make the background actually highlight the product. And they're successful. Look at these images, right? So it's very specifically tuned for the background to the object, an object to the background. And it's incredible what the images show. So
Yeah.
I think there will be more like that in every company.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting to note how they announce this stuff, that just like with our news about the world has gotten more fragmented, or social media and so forth, they're announcing and having this conversation on Medium. That's just one of many outlets, you know what I mean? So I just think from hey, where do you look for content? It's more scattered than it used to be. Paul, anything you good with optional on this bad boy?
Optional.
All right, optional it is. Now we're going to Chai app as our next article here. Let me get this up in terms of sharing screen. And there, this is an article that talks about how Chai app is now, upping its ability to host lots of different open source models, and it's got over 1 million active users. So, what do you think about this, Luda?
I rated it as optional, but it is a very interesting combination. So what they've done, they've taken ELO metric or evaluation that is used in chess. So it's a relative assessment of the player's skill against others. So you can do, so it's not a absolute assessment, it's relative, right? So it's a game. The developers are putting in their models, and using the network of other developers, they are rating their skill and how the model ranks and improving it. So it's a powerful technique. It's for open source models, which is great, and I applaud the use, the very creative use of ELO metric. So, but it's optional in my mind.
Yeah, I was going to make the case for important, because there's such I think the idea of the activity of the open source community and how quickly the improvement's happening, and Chai seems to be, an area that is a place like Hugging Face that has a lot of open source activity. And I'm reminded of the book, I think it's The Rise of Superman, which is a study of by the guy who wrote the book with Diamantis on, I'm forgetting his name right now, but the co-author Diamantis on the book Exponential. And what he shows is the fact that extreme sports have accelerated. Like if you look at, big wave surfing or skateboarding, and it's that community learning that is accelerating those things. And the speed of the community learning here, I thought was super important as we're getting into the inference and intelligence layer of the world.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In this case, you can't advance without this community being there. So that's why the community is getting bigger and the revenue is getting bigger. And this is an ingenious way of doing it. Yeah.
So, but still optional?
Yeah, for me.
Paul, all right, come on. I'm running a democracy here this morning. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna go against the chalk, Luda. I'm with Luda. It's optional. I do think it's I do think extreme sports and the entertainment, this kind of intensity on community and dopamine and learning is a really important trend. But this particular optional for the time-starved leader, no need to read it.
My goodness, I was hoping for a different vote.
Luda, we're not
Twice already, so I mean, I have to win once.
Luda, we're not going to pass. I'm not going to pass this class.
All right, optional it is. Optional it is. All right. Next, we have Cohere teaming up with our friends at Fujitsu and building a Japanese language-based large language model. What did you think about this one, Paul?
You know, I'm traveling. I don't have my Barney with me, but this is a Barney announcement. We love you. You love us. We had a meeting and did a press release. Aren't we leaders? Everybody's partnering with everybody. What matters is what's in production. And, you know, I think it's very interesting and it's a great deal for Cohere, but they need to, you know, do some more successes and our AI leaders shouldn't read it.
Luda, where are we on this?
Yeah, I agree. And
All
I actually wondered why Cohere, and because Japanese are so notorious at evaluating, you know, vendors and takes certain time and metrics and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it appears that they started with Cohere and now they're just putting it, and they will have an exclusive for distribution in Japan. So that makes sense to me, but optional.
All right, optional it is. Hit an optional for that one. Let's go ahead. Our next article is on PPT models that are competing with transformers, and there's also other architectures. You know, transformers are so compute intensive that we're starting to see other types of models, and the approach here in terms of test time training, which is kind of a Russian doll model of putting AI under the AI. In terms of hidden states, seems to be much more, compute efficient without sacrificing a lot of quality. But right now, I think that they haven't shown their ability to really outperform the large models yet. And this is an article that, you know, simply talks about it very Barney-like, you know, and A21 and others are exploring these models. So I was going to give it an optional. What do you folks think?
I was, as a trend, John, it's important to note, and this particular one has a very well-researched article behind it. So it's that we can highlight. And how it works and why it would get the performance improvement and mostly cost improvement. So I think this is a worthwhile to highlight. It mentions other ways of doing it as well. So I think we will see more types of models coming up that will be much more efficient.
And so when you say well-researched article, you mean this article or one?
No. This is very superficial. It mentions at the top, there is a link to the article. Hold on. Yeah, it was a very well-researched article that had a lot of authors. I don't know whether we reviewed it, but we'll put it into the summary. So it's worth mentioning to our audience that this is happening. These models are become available and will be more of these.
Okay, so that comes to a rating of?
And I don't know what Paul think. What do you think, Paul?
I love it. Well,
that's why we need 3.
Paul, we do an optional. You go with that?
I think he's on mute.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm in a noisy spot. Optional. Absolutely
optional. Optional it is. All right. We have one left, which is the one about proof verifier games that our friends at OpenAI have written about here. So let's see, proof verifier. What do let's see. I was going to put this as optional. I think I'm on the hook for this one, and I think it's a interesting discussion of using more complex models to create complex outputs, and then to have a verifier, then make that more readable and easy to use. And so this idea of readability and usability and having multiple experts to make that happen. And it's kind of, inferred by, or whatever, implied by this graphic, large to small to smaller, right? And I thought it was, here it goes through how, it gives an example, right, of how it goes from the model itself, goes through verifier training and prover training. And you can see here, this is their illustration of how, readability, legibility gets much better as they do this. So, but I thought it was optional, interesting. I think it gives us a little bit of a view into what GPT-5 might have in it, but not a lot new here, I thought, in terms of actual usability. What do you folks think?
Yeah, I think it is optional, but it's interesting. We haven't solved this, right? It is, to a lot of people, LLM is a black box, and it spits out stuff, and you need to go kind of check it out. And OpenAI is trying to put a verifier, but I don't know whether this will be the scheme to do the verification, because they're essentially fine-tuning the output of the model for the verifier first, and then going back and forth. So I think it's a little skewed, but it is a problem that we haven't really solved. But
Paul, you okay with optional?
Yes, yeah, I think, Luda, it just again shows how early we are in so much of this stuff.
Yeah,
unbelievable. 5 years, 2 years from now, we'll be laughing about how we're all on this stuff is, but it's early days.
It's early days, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here we have the big tote board. Oh, wait. Sorry, that's the wrong slide. Sorry. Just a second. Let me go ahead and do it.
People online, thank you for your patience. We are down a few production people today, so we are all scrambling.
Wait a second here.
No,
I'm doing an amazing job. What do you mean?
I know.
Apologies. No apologies here.
No apologies. John, you're doing a fantastic job.
Exactly.
Let me, first of all, give me 2 seconds here. Paul, any announcements or anything like that while I work on this?
No, I think in the high-level announcements, it's Thursday. We're going to announce the Learning Lab tomorrow. Second on the announcement front is I'm actually driving right now to the actual Woodstock in New York. I've been invited to an event there, and we've been invited because we have AI Woodstock, Boston, San Francisco, New York, as a networking event, and they have invited me to an event where they are trying to figure out how to take the feelings of the 1969 Woodstock, peace, love, harmony, which are all dying with the baby boomers, and how to bring that to the younger generation. So it's kind of exciting there. And then last, I want to share, we continue to see a lot of good market feedback for Own Your Own Intelligence. And the people out there are interested in working on that with us or have ideas, please contact John or I.
All right. All right, I'm going to share it this way here. And let me go ahead and put presentation mode. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So today we've got 1 essential and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 optional. So a very peaked day, 1 thing that you need to read, and 6 that you can peruse. So there we have it, saving you time and our little time machine here in what the news is for generative AI today. Anything else new? Any other big announcements, Luda?
Nope. All
right. Well, thanks, everybody. It's great to be with you. And we will see you tomorrow with the news of the day. Bye-bye.